Okay. So is my voice clear? Can you hear me? Vanina, can you hear me well?
Yes, yes.
Very nice. So if you can hear me, can you just leave a comment with a yes?
In the chat?
Yes. No, this is for the audience.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start. So welcome everyone. This is Aya Alimi, IH Academic Manager and Senior Teacher Trainer, and I hope you're all doing great. I hope all of you can see me and I hope all of you can hear me well. So welcome to IH Cairo series of webinars. Tonight's webinar is going to be about a very interesting topic. It's going to be about integrating storytelling and drama in our EFL and ESL classes. But before we start anything, before we start talking about this interesting topic, let's just do some housework. So I hope you can see my screen. So at first, I need you to know that the session will last for about an hour and a half, and that there will be time when we can answer all your questions at the end of the session. So just leave your questions in a comment, and we will gladly answer all of them. And you also need to know that the session is recorded, so you need to fear not if you need to drop out, or maybe you just need to leave early, because you're going to find the session. And as in terms of the things that you can see, I hope you can see me and hear me, see Vanina and hear her. I also hope you can see my PowerPoint presentation and Vanina's PowerPoint presentation. And that's everything. So I need now to talk to you about our guest, our outstanding guest, Vanina Waxman. So Vanina Waxman is an educator with over 30 years of experience in the field of ESL, and she's worked as an academic coordinator at BEX, material developer, and is currently serving as a university teacher. She's working also for IH Mexico. And she has finished her CELTA successfully, and she's also finished her Delta with a distinction, which is very rare. And right now, she's halfway through her master's degree, applied drama major. So, hi, Vanina.
Hi everybody. Hello.
We're glad to have you tonight. What time is it in Mexico?
Oh, it's not tonight. It's the morning here. It's 10 a.m.
Yeah.
Oh, 10:04 a.m.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because it's right now it's 6 p.m. in Cairo.
You're finishing the day. It's the evening. I'm just starting. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so the stage is yours, Vanina.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So can you help me share the presentation, Aya?
Yes,
And I will tell you when not to share so that they can see my face.
Yes. Yes, sure.
Okay. So I call this webinar Storytelling from Young Learners to Adults, and for all skills and systems. I think we've all heard of the technique of storytelling for ESL, but most of us are not sure or comfortable on how to use it for different things. So this is what the webinar is going to be about, how to apply this technique for different moments during your classes and for different levels and ages. So the first thing I would like to do, if you can help me, is you've heard a couple of things about me. You've known about my delta, my current position in the university. I'm going to tell you a couple more things about me. And while I do that, if you can help me and in the chat, write where you're from. What kind of students do you usually teach? In your own words, I mean. You can say preschool or adults, general English, business, or whatever you want. And tell me if you use storytelling in your lessons and how frequently. Like never, occasionally, all the time. Okay, I love it. Okay, I want to have a general idea on how much you know about storytelling. So if you want, Aya, you can share the chat so that we can all see the answers and see where we're all at.
Yes, sure. Waiting for their answers.
Okay. So the one thing that I wanted to tell you about myself is that apart from teaching university business English and kinder, I have a company which uses applied drama, and we go around the country and some other neighbor countries presenting some shows, and then we train teachers on how to use these drama techniques, the rehearsal room approach, and storytelling, how to apply that in the class. Okay, cool. So Aya, you use it all the time. Very good. Okay. Mona, do you use storytelling a lot or never or okay, yes. That's what I was wondering. Because most of the time, that's what we think of. When we think about storytelling, we think about preschool and primary school. But what I'm going to show you today is that, of course, it works for those ages a lot, but we can use it for a wide range of ages and aims. Okay, cool. All right, so let's start. Why using storytelling? I'm going to tell you my main reasons. These are not the only reasons for including storytelling in the classroom. And I want to share with you two quotes of two gurus, let's say, that I follow. One is Jeremy Harmer. For me, Jeremy Harmer is someone I really I read him and I follow him and I listen to him a lot because I think he goes straight to the point and he gives good tips. So he talks about deep processing, and he says that an ESL lesson is not about how we teach, but it's about how the students learn, how we give them chance to learn. And for that, they need this, which is called deep processing, which is what our brain does to select some information, to store it in the working memory so that we can activate it, and then to store it in the permanent memory, and to make associations and know how to retrieve it. And what he mentions is that deep processing occurs only with a level of engagement at an emotional level. And this allows students to become learners. And the other quote I want to share with you, you might have heard about this guy, is from Scott Thornbury. He talks a lot about emergent language. And he mentions how language emerges naturally in second language learning when the learners are truly engaged in a communicative interaction. And then all the teacher has to do is fill the gap and answer the need. I want to add to this that even if it's not real emergent language, even if you created the lesson with a purpose, even if you planted the target language, when there is a communicative imperative, the students can feel it naturally, and the language can emerge, can pop out, and they can pick it. So, summing up, first reason, lowering the affective filter. I don't know how this works in a lot of countries. I've taught in Spain, in Argentina, and here in Mexico. But for us, lowering the affective filter is a big deal. Like L1 students come with a preconceived idea that learning English is difficult, learning English is not for me, learning English is boring. So This for me is a big advantage of storytelling. When you make it sound natural and you let them engage with their emotions and their feelings and you make them interested in the story, they lose this fear. And relating to this, what Scott Thornbury mentioned about the communicative imperative. When a student is really involved in the communication process, really interested in knowing how the story goes, what is going to happen, it's going to activate their communicative abilities, even unintentionally. And then it's going to make this kind of associations and it's going to store this new language in the memory. The other thing is the possibility of plotting, helping noticing, and modeling. When you are telling a story, you have a lot of things that you can use. For example, gestures. You can use visual aids. You can use sentence stress, like I'm doing now, okay? And you can flood a text. Let's say you're trying to teach adjectives. You can use as many adjectives as you want, and whenever you're using them, you can illustrate them and overstress them and use your intonation and your prosody. Of course, you can do that also with a reading. I mean, you can put a reading and you can put in red all the adjectives, but that doesn't look natural. And if you're telling a story, you can do these. You can do plotting, noticing, and modeling, and still making it look natural. So they are going to receive it without noticing that they are being taught. Okay, so those are my reasons. I want to know if you have any other reasons, if you have your own reasons, or if you have heard about any other reasons for using storytelling or something like that. So if you want to share it in the chat. This is interesting, something that Joran mentions, that sometimes storytelling can be boring. I mean, if you are over telling a story, you're repeating it, you're not engaging your audience. So there are some tips and tricks to make it engaging, and that depends on the ages. So that those things we can discuss at the end of the I was going to say of the class because I'm a teacher. So at the end of the webinar, we can discuss that if you are interested in a particular age group or something like that, and you want tips on how to make them engaging. Okay. So the second thing I want to talk about is what. All right, you convinced me. I want to use storytelling in the class. What are my sources or materials? Again, if you have any other ideas than the ones I'm sharing, please share them in the chat, okay, so that we can add to my presentation. So, of course, you can use literature. Shakespeare is super useful, contrary to common belief, for all the ages. There are many digital storytelling sites. You can use books. You can use the story in the course book and make it storytelling. Fables, collective creation. There are many things where your students can create the story, okay, student-generated content, or even an anecdote, okay? So there are many sources for storytelling. It's just about using the technique. Anything can be a story. Decodables, yes. When it's about young kids, they can have also this type of books, and you can start by storytelling. Okay. So talking about that, and because you mentioned that, this is something that I wanted to clarify. Storytelling and reading aloud is not exactly the same. Okay. The difference is, in storytelling, the eye contact is with the listener. Okay. So this adds to a stronger connection. Oh, good. Evelyn teaches adult professionals and never uses storytelling. Evelyn, I'm going to show you how I use storytelling in business later on. Okay. The other thing about storytelling that is not when you're using a book directly is the flexibility in the choice of words. You can paraphrase, you can rephrase, you can float with your target language. There are lots of opportunities for non-verbal communication, and that's the main thing, okay? You can move around, you can use your gestures, you can use your face, okay? You have more tools when you are storytelling and not reading. There's lots of opportunity for spontaneous audience participation, okay? Even if you're not planning on that, you can always take the student-generated content. If you're reading and they suggest something that doesn't go with the reading, it's very difficult to go back to what's on the page. But if you're telling a story, you can always improvise. And this is another difference, but this is not a very good one. It takes more preparation. Of course, you have to know the story that you're going to tell. And with the book, you can just take it and read. So the rest of the webinar is going to be about giving you ideas on how, what for, like what kind of language can we teach through storytelling, who for, like can I use it with other professionals like Evelyn is mentioning, and when, in what moments of the class can I use it? Is it only a warmer? Can I use it for exposure? Is it the actual process of the class? Okay. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to be boring like Jobran mentioned because I cannot hear you. In a normal class, you would be like completing parts and things like that. Now you're only going to look at me doing it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you 4 different examples. Okay. I'm going to use different techniques. They are going to be aimed to different ages, different levels, A2 to C2. A1 to C2, actually. I'm going to use different sources and materials, and I'm going to be trying to teach different target languages, or I'm going to have different teaching aims, teaching objectives, okay? So what I want you to do now is, as I'm doing this, if you can think of any questions regarding any of these, let's say, episodes, write them down in the chat, but I'm going to ignore you, okay? So when I finish, I'm going to ask Aya to help me, and then she's going to select some of the questions, and we are going to answer all of them. Okay, we're going to have plenty of time for that. Okay. So I'm going to start with one, and I want you to try to think while you listen to the story. What's the technique I'm using? In your own words. I mean, you don't have to know the names of the techniques, but am I reading from a course book? Am I using digital storytelling? Am I doing a puppet show? Okay. What's the source? Is it literature? Is it a fable? Is it an anecdote? Okay. What's the target language? What was I, as a teacher, wanting to teach? Okay. What's the level? Is it like A1, C2? And what's the age? Okay. So now, Aya, for this one, I need you to stop sharing the presentation so they can see me as big as possible. Thank you. Okay. So we're going to start today with a story. And this is a story of a friend of mine called Sam. So can you all say hello, Sam? With your hands. Say hello. Okay. Very good. So Sam, can you say hello? Hello. Okay. So Sam has a dog, and the dog's name is Spot. Let's say hello to Spot. Sam and Spot love going to the park, and today the sun is shining. So it's a beautiful day to go to the park. They go to the park and Spot starts running around. And he sees some tall grass, so he approaches the grass. When he's close, he hears a sound. Spot is super scared. But he's brave, okay? So he goes back slowly, 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 and he listens. He's super scared again. But he goes back. Slower and slower, slow, slow. What do you think he listens now? Yeah. So Sam is scared and Spot is scared and he runs back to Sam. Whoa, 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 whoa. Sam doesn't understand. So he decides to go and check. Sam approaches and he listens. He listens again. Help me do the sound, everybody. So he decides to investigate what's going on. Okay. So he's going to lean in and investigate. What do you think he's going to see? What do you think is making the sound? Yes. A snake. Ah! Sam is super scared and he runs away so fast that he forgets Spot. So he comes back and Sam and Spot both run away together and go back home. Okay. So did you enjoy the story? Did you like it? Cool. Okay. So now, Aya, can you help me share the screen? What I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you a couple of post activities that we could use with this one. Okay. Just as an example, give me 1 second. Okay, so this was our sound, the sound that snakes make. Can we all do it together? Very good. Now, we're going to listen to a song, and when you hear the sound, you are going to do. Okay? Oh, you love snakes? Cool. Okay, so then you're going to do it with both hands like this. Okay? And if you don't like snakes, you're going to do it like this. All right? So I'm going to put the song. The snake is in the grass. The snake is in the grass. The snake is in the grass. Very good. Let's do it again. Okay, I'm going to pretend because you're not preschooler, so. Okay, now I'm going to point at some pictures and I'm going to say the name and you are going to say if you hear the sound or not. Okay, so if you hear a new sound, you are going to do S. And if you don't hear it, you're going to say no, no, no. Okay, so let's look at the first one. I'm going to say it. Sun. Sun. Can you hear it? Yeah, very good. Okay, now snake. Second picture, snake. Okay, let's listen to this word. Cat. Cat. Can you hear a new sound? No. Very good. Okay. I don't want to waste your time treating you like preschoolers. This was just an example. So the technique is teacher-led storytelling with aids. Okay, I don't know if I'm frozen. I cannot see my... Okay, can you still hear me? Can you tell me in the chat? Uh-oh. Okay, no. Oh, okay, sorry. I'm sorry. I was seeing myself like frozen, so I wasn't sure. Okay, thank you, Ellie. Okay, yes, good. So as you were saying, the age kids 6 to 10, probably preschoolers, but yes, it could be 3 to 6, 3 to 7. The source is an invented story, or it could be from a course book, but you just have to turn it into a story. Or no, yeah, no, Mona, it doesn't have to hold a story. An anecdote can be storytelling. Okay, anything can be storytelling as long as you create the art of the story. Okay, the level is beginner, the age is preschoolers, and the target language is the sound of the phoneme. In this case, it's for blending, which is synthetic phonics. They're going to start learning the sounds and then connected them for reading. Yeah. So yes, it should be 3 to 5. It depends on the country. Sometimes it's a little more. It's 4 to 7. Yeah. Okay, perfect. So as we mentioned, this is the one kind of storytelling you are probably more familiar with. Okay, so for kids, we know that we can use storytelling. What I want you to do is start thinking of what of the tools that I use in terms of my voice, my gesture, my gestures, my connections with the students, the aides. Which of these tools you think could translate to other ages and other purposes, and how? Okay. So we're going to change. We are going to go to another one. Yes, this one was like a sort of a puppet show. Yes, exactly. But remember, and this is important, that I wanted to show you this, that I had one professional puppet, which was some, but the rest, this is a toy, this is a sock, and this is a bit of foamy, okay? So you don't need to have actual puppets. This one, you're correct, Mariam, this one is from Jolly Phonics. Yes. Actually, Jolly Phonics has a story, which is very simple, which is written, and then you can change it so that you can slot it with sounds, and you can use repetition more and things like that. That's how you change the written story from the Jolly Phonics curriculum to this kind of storytelling, okay, which is a puppet show. Okay. You're welcome, Abir. I hope all the tips and tricks are helpful. Okay, so let's go to the new one. In this case, I'm going to be using the slides because the slides are important, but I still want you to try to focus on what I do, even if my face is a bit smaller and to the side. Okay. So give me 1 second. So I'll prepare this one. Okay. All right. Let's start with a story today. Once upon a time, there was a shepherd boy, and his job was to watch some sheep near a small village. The boy was intelligent and he was hardworking, but the job was boring. So, in order to have fun, the naughty boy called out the villagers 4 times a day, crying, "Wolf! Wolf!" And then, when the villagers came running, he laughed at them. That's nothing. One day, the wolf really came. He started chasing and catching and eating the sheep. The shepherd boy, now really alarmed, started shouting, "Please come and help me. The wolf is killing the sheep. Wolf, wolf." But no one came. The villagers were tired of all his lies, so this time they decided not to come. And the wolf, having no fears, no one to scare him, killed all the sheep. Okay. Okay. Did you like the story? Yeah? Did you know it from before? Okay. I'm going to ask you a question. Was this story easy to follow? This happened and this happened and then this happened? Or was it like all the way around? The story was easy to follow because we have these little okay, this slide was not supposed to be so complicated, but but I cannot show the animations. Okay, we have all these little words here in yellow, okay, that help us connect the story and bring direction. Okay, so now what we are going to do is we are going to retell the story all together, beat by beat. And when you see a yellow word, you're going to really mark it, really stress it, okay? Then, and, but, so, okay, very good. Okay, I'm going to start reading. Very good. And now, blah, blah, blah. And now you, and now you, and now we are going to check what's the purpose and everything. Okay, this is a follow-up activity. I'm going to show you another follow-up activity, and this one is very useful when doing storytelling. Okay. I cannot animate the slides, but in theory, these would appear one by one. Okay. Or you can do it if you're face to face, you can do it with like just you put something here that says but, and, so. Okay. So the way you would do this is you start telling the story and then you show one connector and you ask the students to turn the story in different directions. Okay. Yeah, exactly, like past activity. So, for example, I would say, I would start saying, the once was a shepherd boy that was very intelligent, but, Mona, can you tell me, but something different from intelligent? Okay, very good. Intelligent, but lazy. Okay. And, okay, Shireen, can you add something? And this way, you're building the story, showing one connector at a time, okay? So the kids know the story, but they can twist with it. They can create something different using the directions of the discourse model. Okay. So I've seen some of your comments, but I've lost them. Yes, this is A2 level, very good. This is probably elementary school. Okay. The target language here was discourse markers. The source was a fable. And the techniques are two, okay? 8 to 12, elementary, connectors, 8, pictures, animation, following up exercise. Yes. The techniques are two. One is the digital storytelling, which is like using the book, but it has the advantage that it doesn't have the words, and you can use your hands and your gestures. And the second part, the second technique is called a circle of stories. And this is when you are just a facilitator and you start and you decide where the story goes, but the others complete it. Okay, so you just use the connector and you let the others complete the story. So this is student-generated content, and it's the circle. You can do this with a lot of things. You can do this with pictures. You can do this with a ball, and you send it through. You can use it in this case with the connectors. There are many ways of doing this. There's some dice that you can throw, and the students have to use them to complete the story. And here Angie mentions that the target was writing. Yes, you could do this for creative writing, or you can do it with speaking. Okay, any of the two can be the skill that you practice. So in this case, it was actually speaking. I cannot do it here because I cannot listen to you, but in this case, it was actually speaking, but you can also do it for writing. I mean, you can send them into groups and you can write a few connectors and they have to create the paragraph. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to move to another one, to another technique, age, aim, level, source. So remember, if you have some doubts regarding this previous one, write it down so that we can then later catch up and answer your questions in the end. Okay. Right. So again, we are going to think of the technique, the source, the target language, the level, and the age. Aya, again, I'm going to need you to take the slides away so that they can see me, and give me 1 second. All right. I'm going to tell you a story, everybody. Just relax, listen to the story. Okay. That's all. Okay. Once upon a time, there was an old man who lived alone at the top of a hill. Every night, the lonely man performed the same ritual. He would switch all of all the living room lights one by one. He turned out the light that it was outside. He locked every door with 2 keys. He closed the windows. And then he slowly walked to his bedroom, and then he laid in bed. But one night he awoke scared. He heard a strange noise right outside his window. His whole body shook like a fan. He ran to the living room. He stood in front of the window and he saw a shadow to his left, then another shadow to his right. He hid. He slowly raised and right. Now I want you to finish the story. Just one sentence. What happened? And, okay, can you write 1 sentence telling me what happened next? Let's finish the story together. So he rose slowly and he saw a ghost. Or, and the lights went off. And what could it be? Okay, so I want you all to write one sentence to continue the story. Okay, cool. Aya, can you help me with the slides again? Okay. Okay, very good. So now what we are going to do is I'm going to give you this, which is the story that I've just written, and I'm going to send you to breakout rooms, and you're going to complete it from where it stopped and with a short paragraph in group. Okay? For example, he rose slowly and shouted, "Ah, someone touched his shoulder." He ran away, afraid that someone could kill him. Okay, very good. All right. Okay. Okay, so now let's come back and together we are going to do a different thing. We're going to create some suspense, okay? So we're going to add to the man's routine. I want you, when I mention a name, I want you to repeat the previous ones and add a new one, okay? So I'm going to say, I'm going to give you an example. He switched off the light. He locked every door. He closed all the windows. He wore his pajamas. Okay? So now you, Angie. Okay? So Angie, you have to repeat. He switched off the lights. He locked every door. He closed all the windows. He wore his pajamas. Okay. So now you would do this. This is another post activity. You would do this with your students. And this is a typical double substitution drilling where they have to repeat what you're saying, you're modeling, and they have to repeat it, adding something. So they're going to be activating tenses, verbs in past tense, plus the complement. But because they're going to be involved in creating suspense for the story, they're not going to be worried about grammar. It's not going to feel like a brain exercise. Okay, they're going to be trying to contribute to the story, and they're going to be concentrated in me. Okay, and he had a shower. I like how Angie finished it. Okay, so he rose slowly and he had a shower. Nothing happened. Okay. Okay. So here are some other things that you can do. For example, okay, again, this is a slide and you're not supposed to see all at the same time, but I would show them the paragraph with all the verbs, and then I would ask my students, okay, I want you to describe the setting for this particular night. What was happening around the house at the moment, okay? So I want you to involve your senses. Was the wind howling? Was the moon shining? Was the snow falling? Okay, so again, I will send them to work in groups or in pairs. I would make them notice the structure of the past continuous, but I wouldn't need to show them and teach them explicitly the uses because they are going to understanding for this communicative imperative of making the story more interesting. We can do the same with the past perfect. Okay, now I want you to tell me what had happened the morning before that can explain the events of the night, or that can make them more unexpected. Okay, had someone visited? Had he remembered something? Had he received a letter? Okay, so again, you send them to do some creative writing, but even when you mark the structure, the form of the tense, the use is obvious because of this communicative imperative. Yeah. Good. So this is the technique, creative storytelling. The source in this case is an invented story, just an intro, but of course you can use any intro of any story if you don't want to invent it. In this case, the target language was narrative tenses, but someone mentioned adjectives. It's a very good example of something you can use. The level is B1 plus, B2, and the age would be teens or young adults. I want to show you. This is a picture of one of my classes. This was business English. So we did this to review. They were B2 plus, but they had some issues, some fossilized errors when it came to narrative tenses and their uses. So we did this. They were extremely engaged, as you can see. You can change the interaction patterns easily. There are 4 working together, now they're working in pairs, now a different pair, now they're working alone. A lot of writing, a lot of speaking, okay? And after they did this, where they created fantastic stories, then we moved to the actual business lesson, and they created the intro for a TED talk about the thing that they were working with. So that's why I wanted to show you that you don't only have to use it with kids. Okay. All right. Yes, we still have time. Okay, I'm going to do one more. So that, again, you can check another age, another level, another technique, and another use. Again, Aya, I'm just going to be me without the slides. Thank you. Okay. Okay, so now I'm just going to tell you a story, but it's my story. Okay? This is a real part of my story. So this happened a long time ago, and I wanted to tell you this because I want to talk about coincidence. How this is a big world, but it's still very small. So this happened a long time ago, probably mid-90s. Okay. I was living in Madrid, Spain, and I was working as an English teacher. So as any budding young employee, I was looking for some cheap gigs at the time. So after searching and searching and searching, I managed to find a suitably priced room to rent in a shared flat with 2 others. One was a girl from Spain and the other one was a girl from Ireland. So after a few days, the Irish girl tells me that there's a friend of hers who's coming to the city, and she asks me if he can stay and he can sleep in the couch in the living room. And of course, I said it was fine by me. So her friend arrived a few weeks later, and one day we were alone in the house. It was just him and me. And this guy had a broad Irish accent. So communication was a little bit complicated. So I wanted to make some small talk, and I asked him what the weather was like in Ireland. And he said he had no idea because he was currently living in Malta, and he had flown directly from Valletta, the capital of Malta. So I asked him immediately what he did for a living, and he answered he was an IT specialist. So I already started freaking out, okay, a bit. And I told him this was a big coincidence because my sister from Argentina was also living in Malta, which is a tiny, small country, okay, and was also an IT specialist. Okay, on hearing this, he raised his eyebrows, and with a knowing smile, he said, "Oh, yes, where does she work? What's the name of the company?" So I mentioned it was a bank, the Midland Bank. And then he said, "What's the name of your sister?" And I said, "Samantha Waxman." And at this point, his eyes widened, and with a big cheesy grin, he told me, "I sit next to her in the office." Can you imagine what a small, small world? I mean, I'm from Mexico. My sister is from Argentina. We were living in a flat and all of these things. Okay. So yes, as Ellie was mentioning, this technique is an anecdote and the source is a personal experience. In this case, it's not true. This is not my anecdote. I stole this from a tutor, but the idea is to present it in a way that it looks and sounds like a personal experience. Okay. Aya, can you help me with the slides? Okay. So then you can give them the transcript. Okay. And you can, again, help them notice some of the language. Okay. And you can do some follow-up exercises, any follow-up exercises that you would do when teaching lexical approach, like, I don't know, the banana game or anything else. And you can also ask them to go into breakout rooms, pick some of these expressions, and use them to tell your own real anecdotes. Okay. So they personalize it. So the technique is personalizing. So the trick here is using gestures, conversational tone, and as much authenticity as possible so that they believe it's a personal anecdote and then they can use their personal context. The target language in this case was lexical approach, but you can use it for anything. Yes, the TL is fixed expressions, exactly, or semi-fixed expressions in this case, but yes, it's chunking, yeah. And of course, it's adults. A real story, C1, C2, but I mean, you can alter your anecdote and do it any level you want. I just wanted to do this one C1 and up because I've been showing you how to use storytelling for A2, B1, B2. So I wanted to show you that even for C2, okay, you can use storytelling, and the age is adult, of course. So we are going to move to questions, but before that, I want to ask you, what did all these sketches, let's say, these episodes, have in common? What is the common things that you can that you can notice as tools for storytelling? You write them in the chat. I'm going to show you my answers, but if you can think of anything else, exactly. Very good. Okay. Yes. So the idea is I'm using storytelling techniques which have some things in common all of the time. Intonation, miming, and gesture. Yes. I need learner engagement. So this one was restricted because you're all muted, but in a real class, there would be a lot more learner engagement. Yes, facial expressions, exactly. So one is eye contact, okay? You use your eye contact, you look at them, you look at some of them individually, and then you decide when not to use it. Like if you are thinking, for example, or if you want them to notice something or something like that. So eye contact is very powerful. Pauses, shifts in intonation, and exaggerated stress. It's exaggerated, but if you use them in conjunction with your gesture and your expressions, it looks natural, okay? So you can be naturally saying that something was super big. Okay? And this is a trick. If the level is lower, what you can do is that you delay the answer. So the gesture goes before the expression. So their brains would have already understand the keyword before you do it. So for example, you say, and this house was big, okay? First you do the gesture and then you say the word. So the student immediately can grasp the meaning. The puppets have, you can use puppets with every level, actually. Yes, I mean, I'm currently, one of my performances is for adults, and we have giant puppets, and it depends on the kind of puppet, of course, but you can use realia or anything else. Okay, and the other thing that they have in common, and this is very important, you have to keep the structure of a story. It has to have somehow a beginning, a conflict, and an end. and I'm going to explain to you why. Antonio Damasio is a neuroscientist that developed a theory about how emotions affect the way that in which we can incorporate information and transmit new information. So what he mentions is that our brains reward us with dopamine when we recognize and complete patterns. And stories are patterns. The brain recognizes the familiar beginning, middle, end structure of a story and rewards us for identifying and storing in our memory the new information. This is why the work wonders, because they will subconsciously identify the information that they have to select and use. It works better than just reading. When we are reading, we don't use the same process. When we are listening to stories, we try to complete the pattern. Okay, so that's it from me. And now, Aya, you can stop sharing and please bombard me with questions because this is where I can give you tips for your own experiences.
So, guys, we're waiting for you now. We're waiting to receive all your questions.
You can ask about anything. I mean, about me if you want, or about sources, about how to solve a particular problem. I remember in another webinar, one teacher mentioned, I try to do that, but my students don't engage, for example, or things like that. Or, I mean, whatever you can think of. I thought there were going to be a lot of questions, so I made it super short, the presentation, and fast, so that you can ask all the questions that you have, but if you don't, escape. Well,
I
with
think
true beginners,
it was clear enough.
sorry, Aya?
I think it was all clear enough. Maybe this is why there are no questions.
Could
Okay,
be.
so we have here a question. So, Shireen, she's saying, how can I find stories for young learners?
Okay, there's one site that I recommend that is called Books, but Books with a V, okay? Um, it's free, of course, you can have one paid option, but it has a lot of stories with a lot of images, and you can use them for young learners. They're very, very useful. But again, remember that anything can be the stories that you've learned from childhood, fables. Okay, you can go to YouTube and find, for example, a song from Coco Melon, and then tell the story before that, and then you reinforce it with the song. So for young learners, it's really, really easy.
We
Angie,
also have here, yeah, we have here also, can students do storytelling too?
definitely, definitely. I mean, the good thing about storytelling is that it caters a different range of personalities. So what I would suggest is you open the door bit by bit, because you might have some shy students who enjoy just listening but don't want to act out, and some other students um, that really enjoy doing the storytelling. So what you can do is use storytelling and then open the door bit by bit, and then you can incorporate them into doing storytelling. Yes, definitely. And he asked if storytelling was challenging with true beginners. No, actually, it's very easy because in storytelling you can use a lot of aids. And if you use this trick that I've shown you that you show before you tell, it's going to help you convey meaning way easier than anything else that you can do. So one trick I recommend for very young learners or adults, but true beginners, is when you are practicing the story, use some gibberish
Hmm.
and be sure that you stress the keywords, but you unstress the rest. So the cognitive load for the listener is not too big. So I'm going to give you an example. Let's imagine I was speaking a language that you don't know. So I'm going to say, washa, 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 wa, wa. Washa, 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 wa, wa, eh. Okay? So your brain is going to understand that in this language, wa means dog. Okay? So even if you don't know it, if you separate the stress, so if you're practicing, use gibberish so that you're sure you're communicating the keyword. Anything
Okay.
else? Okay. Thank you, Mariam. No
Yes,
questions?
it's very also.
Okay. In any case, you can always contact me. My name is quite weird, so it's easy to find me. I'm on some platforms. I'm on Facebook or on LinkedIn. So if any doubt arises later on, you can always contact me, and I can share my tips.
Thank you so much, Vanina. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for attending our webinar today.
So you're free earlier. Okay.
See you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you, Aya.
see you.
Bye.
Thank you so much, Vanina.
Thank you very much.